Welcome back, everybody. Today we have Dick Frost with us. Dick is coming in from Canada. He brought down the cold today for Florida for me. Gave me a little bit of chilly weather down here. I'm enjoying it. So, Dick, let me know a little bit about you.
Oh man. So yeah, it is cold out, I guess for you. It's minus 17 here right now in Edmonton, Alberta. It is a little bit chilly. The wind isn't blowing though, which is good. It could be minus
Yeah,
40, no wind, it's good, right? No wind. I work outside in the Canadian oil and gas industry, and uh I'm used to the cold weather and whatnot, minus 40, minus 50 sometimes it gets down to, and as long as the wind's not blowing, it's fine. Like, yeah, I could go
yeah,
outside with my coveralls and maybe a hoodie on underneath and not even be phased. But minus 40. If it's minus 35, feels like minus 50 with the wind, we have issues, right? Now,
yeah.
now I'm bubbling up,
That's
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough. I'm not doing that.
Well, you're in Florida, right?
I'm in Florida, and I mean, if it got down to that, people here would die. They would literally.
Different kind of cold.
Let me tell you, when it gets all right. So right now, last night, I think we got to the lowest so far this year. It was like 45 degrees. We might get one of these days where we'll hit like the low 30s. And if we do, if you drive around town, you'll see all the iguanas hitting the ground. They fall out of the trees because they freeze. They're a cold blooded animal, so
Dead?
they don't die. They go into like shock because they can't move. They're so cold, so they literally fall out of the trees, and you'll see them just laid out on the ground until the sun comes out and they start to be able to move again.
So I've noticed it's a different kind of cold between here and there. There is very humid, right? And here is very
Yeah.
dry. So
Yeah.
I'm from Ontario originally, Toronto, right? Just north of, like, pretty far north, yeah, 18 hours or so drive. But like, I noticed there when it's minus 20 there, it's worse than minus 40 here in
Really?
Toronto. Right. Yeah. And I noticed when I was in Florida last, we landed in Orlando, and the pilot's like, it's a chilly 15 degrees on the ground here today. It's 15 degrees Celsius, right? And I'm like, 15 degrees? I just came from northern Manitoba where it was minus 48. No, minus our plus 15 in Orlando was chilly. I was there for 2 weeks, and that whole 2 weeks I wore a sweater and track pants everywhere. And my wife wanted to go swimming in the hotel pool, and I'm like, I went outside. I'm like, this is not happening, right? This is not what I imagine Florida to be like. And then
When did
we
you come
drove.
down? What
Oh,
month?
January. It was a warm
Yeah.
January though, right? Apparently. And we got in the car. We went and I got tickets to a hockey game with the Florida Panthers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I got in the car, and it was cold out. I was bundled up. We get to Miami. That was a different kind of heat. I opened the door, and the heat knocked me back in the car. I had to change into shorts and a t-shirt that day. Yeah.
It's bad, dude. Yeah. We
Yeah.
we we literally just went out to Arizona last week, and it was just amazing weather. Sun is out, 50 degrees. Just you couldn't ask for it was beautiful. A little bit of breeze. Get back home, and right when we step out of the plane, it's like the humidity. You cut it with a knife. It's disgusting.
I have not been to Arizona yet. That's not far from where we are. Cheap flights, but I have not been. That is a bucket list trip. I would love to go to Arizona and
Phoenix,
yeah,
it's
Phoenix.
wild, dude. It's so beautiful, and it's crazy because when you get in when you get to Phoenix, once you get into anywhere in Phoenix, you can literally get out of your car and just do a complete 360, and you are surrounded by the mountains. It's
Ah,
like you're in the like a ditch almost, and you just look around and there's mountains all around you. It's gorgeous.
where I am in Alberta, actually the Canadian Rockies are around us, right? I'm in Edmonton, so it's prairies, right? But then you go 3 hours to the northwest, and you got Jasper is beautiful. Just burnt down this past summer. Actually, the
Oh,
wildfires hit it, but like not the whole town, but like a large chunk of it. And then you go down south, and just outside of Calgary, you got Banff, right? And Banff is, like, you probably heard of Banff. Banff is world renowned, right? Banff is beautiful. It's where all the tourists come. They want to go to Banff. And in my opinion, Jasper is way more beautiful than Banff is, right? way less crowded, not as many tourists. You still get quite a bit, but not as many as Banff, and you get way more wildlife. You see wild elk, wild caribou, there's
That's
buffalo, there's
awesome.
deer, there's bears, there's everything up there. And yeah, man, like I lived in Calgary for 2 years, and the mountains were right there. You can see them right from my house. You could see the mountains. They looked close, but they weren't. But like you can tell it's like it's so beautiful down by your house. You look at the mountains, and it's coming towards August, September, and you're like, oh, it's snowing in the mountains today. The snow's on its way, right? Summer's over, right?
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, here we, our mountains. I think the biggest mountain we have in Florida is the landfill. That's about it. It's the biggest thing that's that's a mountain shape.
Yeah, I
Too
love
flat.
Florida.
So when we do get to travel and see other mountains, it's beautiful.
You got to come to Canada.
Tennessee's dude, we've been talking about we wanna come to Canada so bad
Yeah.
because everybody that I've talked to from Canada, it's just like, "Oh, it's so gorgeous up here." I've seen all kinds of different videos of Canada. It looks beautiful.
It all depends where you go, right? Like I said, Alberta, is very like prairies meet the Rockies, right? And then you got the Canadian Badlands, which is to the southeast a little bit, and it's like we got rattlesnakes and scorpions there, right? But like that's the only spot, right? And then you got the hoodoos and it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. You go to like Drumheller and Drumheller to Brooks is the Badlands, maybe even a little bit south of there. And then prairie land, you got all farmers and stuff like that, all over like Edmonton, Calgary. And then you go a little bit more west and it turns to the foothills. Then the foothills turn into the Rockies, and then you're in British Columbia, right? And British Columbia is the Canadian Rockies are all over there. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
beautiful,
wanna
man.
come to
Beautiful.
Canada.
And I've worked
It's
I've
awesome.
yeah, and I've worked all over every area from the Badlands to the prairies to the foothills to the mountains. I've worked in every part of them, man, and it's beautiful. And the weather's unpredictable, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful. You never know when you're gonna be working in a farmer's field to working near the hoodoos to working. You look up and there's the Rocky Mountains, and it's beautiful, man, and I love that. That's my favorite part about being blue collar, right?
Yeah,
Is
you get to experience just the most awesome views and areas around the world. Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. My dad got me into it when I was a kid, and he had his own metal roofing business, own construction business, and I was 11 years old when he's like, "Well, all right, I guess you're coming to work with me today." It started because they don't do this no more, but I had library books overdue, right? And they were way overdue, and I lost some of them. And my dad had to pay
Gotta
five
pay
hundred
for 'em.
$500 to the library in lost fees and late fees and shit. And my dad's like, "Well, looks like you're coming to work today, man. You
Yeah,
gotta pay this off." And I was 11, and so he took me to work with him. He taught me the value of the dollar, what it takes to earn it. And I worked with him from the time I was 11 till I was 18 and moved out. And yeah, man, all because of some late and overdue library books, man. It's wild.
yeah,
And yeah, dude, I wanted to save up for my own college, and which never ended up happening. But I wanted to, I wanted the very first iPod. The very first iPod came out. I don't know, how old are you, John?
yeah, 36.
So
I remember when iPod come out. Yeah,
we're the same age, basically. I'll be 36 here soon. Maybe I am. I don't even know what year were you
I
born?
do the same thing. 88.
88. So I'm 80. I'm 35. So I'll be 36 soon. And yeah, so I wanted the very first iPod, and my dad's like, "Well, you're working, so save up for it, right?" It cost me $500, $600
Yeah,
like that for the first iPod, and I worked in the entire summer to save for that money, right? And then I bought that iPod, and I was the only kid in my class with a brand new iPod that I had bought myself, and I'm just sitting there playing on it, and I had a thing for like, oh man, how long? I had that thing for probably like 5, 6 years.
I was gonna say when I remember when that came out. I didn't have one at first.
It was like this big.
Yeah, yeah, it was like a brick.
It was like a brick, man. It was like my cell phone is probably about the same size of it now.
Well, I'll never forget. It was probably like this big, and it was just it almost looked like a mini hockey puck, and it was an MP3 player,
Yeah.
and I had that, and then they came out with the iPod, and I didn't realize, I'm from like podunk town, backwoods. So when I first seen the iPod, I was like, "Yo, what is that?" kid in class, what do you have? I was like, "This." And they're like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's an MP3 player."
Yeah.
"This is the iPod." And I'm like, "Let me get that thing. Where do I find one of those?" Yeah, it
Man,
was like $500. I was like, I'm not doing it right now. I'll wait."
yeah, you said you're backwoods. Alberta is known as Texas North, right? Like Alberta, like drill, baby drill, oil everywhere. Guys with I can't grow a hair anymore, but like guys with
I got
mullets.
you, dude. I got
Yeah,
you.
hey man, you know what it's like. Yeah, guys with mullets and missing teeth and doing dip, like spitting their dip, and lifted trucks, man. Yeehaw, cowboy, man. I love it here. It's
I
fun
was gonna say, it sounds like a good time.
it's fun to be a part of. I'm from
Yeah.
out east originally, right? So like I'm from like down south. I'm as almost as far south in Canada as you can get. This is where I'm originally from, right? Parts of the US are actually more north. And so Buffalo is like 40 minutes away, right? So we used to go to the US a lot. And I'm not used to seeing, I didn't grow up with, people with mullets and all that stuff like that, right? So coming out to Alberta, I've been out here like almost half my life now. And, like I've submersed myself fully in the culture. I can't grow a mullet, like I said, but like, the mustache.
You got the perfect, yeah, you got the handlebars going on. See,
Yeah,
I don't
right on days off, so I'm growing
I
up with
can't do that because mine grows into white trash,
yeah,
so it doesn't it doesn't get right here.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
usually just let this grow out.
This started, it was weird because I never had the handlebars before, right? This only started because of the whole Dick Frost thing, right?
Yeah,
Very first couple of videos I posted, I had the handlebars, right? And then it just became synonymous with my character,
yeah,
with my character, right? So
yeah.
it I kept it, and there's times where I've shaved it off. Like people have paid me money to shave it off on the internet. They're like, "Man, you must be so attached to that thing." I'm like, I mean, yeah, but like
Grows back.
buddy paid me $1,000 to shave it one time. And I'm like, okay, let me back. I have
Yeah,
no idea how fast my hair grows. So like I shaved it off and a week later I had a mustache, but it was $1,000 for
$1,000
sure.
bucks.
I'm like, okay. And this past summer, buddy on TikTok Live paid me. He's like, you shaved that thing for $500. I'm like, you dropped the money in my account first, man. And so he did. And I'm like, gone. Actually, that was the full beard. I had the full beard this summer when he did it. And that one hurt a little bit, but like it was
Yeah, 'cause
fine.
that's a huge difference.
Yeah, we've shaven it off for charity and everything now.
That's
We
awesome.
raised $1,200. 2 years ago, this little boy on TikTok, he had cancer. He was 3 years old. My kids got to know him. We went to go see him a lot, and my wife, got pretty attached to him and whatnot. And so they were having a raffle or an auction. I guess it was an auction, and so they're like, "Hey, like, what can you offer to the auction?" I got my own merch and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, well, let's do this. If we raise $1,500, I'll shave the stash, right? And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, all right." So my portion was raised within like an hour or whatever. So I shaved it off on live. It came off, and we raised $1,500. He passed about a year and a half ago, but yeah, it was still fun, man. We still were able to raise. I think 20 grand was raised for that boy and his family
That's
that day. So
awesome.
it's pretty good, yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, man. It was cool to be a part of something like that and being on social media, be putting yourself in these positions, to have a podcast, to
Yeah,
have sponsors and stuff like that. And you're knocking on the door, someone's gonna answer, right? And that's what I tell everybody. Everyone's like, man, like how do you get all this stuff and do all these things? I'm like, put yourself out there, man.
yeah,
Do it. Just put yourself out there. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Like knock on the door and someone's going to answer eventually. It could take a while. It might take a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you said you're married,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have kids.
Oh, I do. I
How ma
have
how many kids do you have?
two
Alright,
daughters.
2.
Two
2
daughters.
daughters.
Two daughters.
Boy. How old are they?
One just turned 7,
Mhm.
and the youngest will be 5 in March.
Okay.
She is the one that we're probably gonna spend some time in jail visiting. So like she's smart beyond her years, man. Let me tell you, like almost
Good.
5-year-old, she is incredibly smart, incredibly dangerous. Like her wits are dangerous, right? And I love it. We're trying to raise them to take no shit, but it'd be nice if they take some shit while we're raising them,
Yeah. Yeah. Don't apply this yet. This is for when
No,
you leave my
yeah,
house.
yeah. When you leave the house, when you're on your own, or if you're facing a bully or whatever, like
Yeah.
do your thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just wait though, because it's gonna get, it'll get interesting. So I
yeah,
have a 14-year-old daughter, and I have a 6-year-old son. And the 14-year-old daughter, once she passed, like, 11 years old, it was just complete night and day.
yeah,
Then you start hearing about boys.
yeah.
Then you start hearing about, "I want these shoes. I want this. I want that. I want this. I want that." They keep up with the fads at school. Stanley Cups. You know the Stanley Cups?
Oh yeah, like the drink cups.
Jesus. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is Nola, but I got like my wife's got like 10 of them, and I've got
Yeah.
let's take two.
Every girl in her middle school, that's, like, the
Yeah,
trend is that you have to have, like, 3 or 4 of them. They're, like, 50 bucks a piece.
yeah.
It's a cup.
Oh yeah, man. What was that one? How much did I pay for that one? Yeah, there were the Starbucks cups too. That
Mhm.
similar to that. It was like the we you were here editions or whatever, and you can get them wherever you go. It's insane, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Alright, so let me hear what you do for work.
So, for the last 7 years, I worked on a vac truck, right, in the oil and gas industry. And the vac truck, I was on call 24/7. I was getting covered in toxic chemicals, breathing in toxic chemicals constantly, away from home for 6, 7 weeks at a time. And at the beginning
Jesus.
of the pandemic, it got hard to fly home. So I was gone for 6 months at a time. And I spent 20 days at home in 2 years. And yeah,
That's
it was
rough, dude.
insane. Yeah, it was insane. And so this past the last couple months, I actually just switched jobs. I got a new job. Buddy on TikTok reached out to me, and he's like, we become friends over the last couple of years, and he's like, man, you want to come work for me? And I was like, well, what are you doing? And he threw numbers at me and all this stuff, and I'd be dumb not to take it. So yeah, I was working on a back truck. Basically, we chase rigs around, oil rigs around. That's how I know Lane Borley. And we chase oil rigs around. And when they do cement jobs, or they'd have spills, or need clean up, or they were rigging out and it was time for the rig to move on, we'd be there. We'd clean their rig tanks out. We'd suck on all their fluids, and we'd just do whatever they needed us to do, right? And there are times where I was on site, be on the end of a vac hose or wash wand for 40 hours at a time, right? And it was like, and so at the beginning of the pandemic, 2020, it was that summer, actually, it was August. um I needed to laugh. All I was doing was working, and I was depressed a little bit, and I was barely home, right? So I'm like, well, how do I fix that? So I went on. My wife and my sister kept sending me TikToks, and I didn't want to watch them. I'm like, here, don't stop texting me these TikToks. I'm never going to watch them. So I created a TikTok account, and I'm like, here, send them there and I'll ignore them over there, right? And then one day I was bored and I started watching them. I'm like, that's funny. Some of these are funny. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't see any videos of people doing what I do, though, right? So, and making it funny. So I made the shit I wanted to laugh at, right? So I started making fun of people in my situation, and in the industry, and just creating the laughs, right? And I realized that as I was doing it, it was helping my mental health become better, right? I was in a deep dark hole. I couldn't talk to
Yeah.
anybody about it, and this helped lift me out, right? And so, it turns out other people on different sites in the industry all over the place, and it started out just in the area I was working at, and then in Alberta, and then it went worldwide eventually. But like, you know, um, we all needed to laugh. We're all going through the same thing. We're cold, we're hot, we're wet, we're hungry, we're tired, we're missing home, right? We're missing everyone because it's, so that's the route I went, and and it made everybody else feel the same way I felt, right? And so that made me feel pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And so 4 years later, here we are, man, and it's turned into something more than I thought it would ever turn into. Right? It was just started off me trying to be funny in the cab of the truck, right? And the oil field was very, and Lane probably might have said the same thing. The oil field was very, put your phone away and don't show anything, right? You're not allowed to have your phone out. You're not allowed to record anything, and it turned very much into, even the higher up saw the benefit in it, right? And Lane Borley actually now is going, they're paying for him to travel to like
Yes,
Texas and stuff like that
the
to train.
drone and everything.
Yeah, to make
Yeah.
content for them. And same with the company I was working for. They were like very much against me using the logos. And then one day I made a video and we had a bunch of poop trucks, right? They would also suck out poop. And we called it the honey wagon.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I made a video and it was like, are your turds in a herd? Is your coil in a or is your soil in a coil? Is your poop in a group? Right? And then I showed the trucks. I'm like, we got straight vacs, we got combo vacs, and for those really big loads, we got semi vacs. They're really big ones, right? They're semis, and it was like, call TCR today for all your pooping needs or whatever it was, or all your septic needs, and then it. Canada is very liberal at the moment. We got a liberal government. You're not going to get into that, but
Yeah.
uh, I'm like, call TCR today, because in this liberal economy, we're all in this shit together, right? And I
Good
sat on it
line.
for a week, and I sat on it for a week, and I sent it to my boss. I'm like, man, you got to let me post this. This is funny. And he's like, let me get back to you on it. And he sent it to his boss. And then a week later, I'm like, hey, man, any word? He's like, go ahead and post it. Just post it. We got 60,000 views in an hour. And I was like, hell yeah,
Amazing.
that's great. Right. And then it just went from there. And then, we got work out of it. Right. So they're like, hey, man, make more videos, use the trucks all you want. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm like, oh, all right. So that was a thing. And then I got a little greedy, right? And I'm like, all right, the rigs don't really want me to show anything. So when I was on the rig, I'd take a little video, but I knew the big no-no was showing the rig name,
Yeah.
right? So I would get creative with it and I'd go off on a certain angle. You couldn't see the rig name. You could tell what rig it was by the color, but you couldn't see the rig name. There was no company logos anywhere. And make the video. And everyone's like, man, that's ballsy. This guy's ballsy doing that, right? And so I did it. And a lot of the companies, they didn't care. They're just like, yeah, man, just don't show the name, and don't put this ahead of your work. You work first and then, and I'm like, of course. Right. So I did. And then yeah, and then so I did that, and one day I'm in the tank cleaning it out, and I bust my phone out, and I look at above me, and the consultant's there, and he's just smiling, right? He knows what I'm about to do, and so he's like, make it, just make it. So I did, and then he's like, get up here, I want to see, right? And it was like, I didn't want to go to college and be 60K in debt, so now I clean rig tanks for a living, right? And I'm just like, shoveling shit to the hose and whatnot. And he's like, man, that's funny. You post that right now. I'm like, well, it's not really my time to post, right? Like, I post at specific times.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I want to see it now. I want to like it. So I'm like, whatever. So I posted it. It got 2 million views on it. I'm like, oh shit. All right, cool. Right. So yeah. And then, so, just, I started the podcast and content creating, if it wasn't for that job, right? Like, I wouldn't probably never have done it,
Yeah.
and so I owe them a lot, but at the same time, right, it got in the way of what I was trying to build. In order to move forward with it, I couldn't work 40 straight hours. I couldn't be on call 24/7. I'm amazed I got to as far as I did with the podcast, with that job, because there'd be times like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? Let's schedule for this time. Well, I couldn't
Yeah.
schedule it because I never knew where I was going to be at any given moment. So be like, hey, man, what are you doing tonight? I don't know, nothing. What are you doing in 20 minutes? Podcast? Cool, let's go. And I made what to 80 I did 80 straight episodes like that, right? And it was wild. The last 20 weeks, have been, I have another job in the summer too, where I build roads. I leave the oil patch in the summer and I go and build roads for the summer just to keep my eggs not all in one basket, right?
Good
It
plan.
started,
Yeah.
yeah, it started during the downturn in 2015, I think it was.
That way you're
Uh,
not sitting waiting for work.
yeah, oil crashed and I had to get another job. So I got a job there. It just happened to be, you know, um, summertime work only. And it was like, cool. And I worked my way up from laborer to equipment operator over the last 10 years. So, and they're not as cool with me making content, showing their stuff, but they know that I make the content. They know that I'm gonna do it, so they don't stop it. They're just like, "You have fun." But so when I was coming back off the road, I was going back to the vac truck, and that's when my buddy was like, "Hey, are you there yet? Do you want to come work for me?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And this job's way better. I'm on a 20 and 10 schedule, means I work away for 20 days and I come home for 10. This one's 12 days off, but I was also in for 22. So 12 hours, that's it. As soon as 12 hours is over, it's over. I'm back in my room. They don't annoy
That's
me. They
nice.
don't call me. I'm not on call. So I can be like, "Hey, you want to record a podcast this day at 8 p.m.?" And they're like, "Absolutely, I'm in." And I can confidently say I'm there. Right. And so the last 20 weeks has been that, right? Is a totally different avenue, right? And I'm not getting covered in toxic chemical anymore. I'm not breathing that stuff in. It's a way better job of making more money, and I'm home a lot more. And like it's just been a good change for my family, right? And they still allow me to go away in the summertime to do my road stuff. So they're like, "Hey, you go away in the summer, you come back here when that's over." Right? Because that was just how it had to happen, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket going forward either.
No, yeah, good. I
Yeah.
wouldn't either. That's a good way of thinking right there.
Yeah, man. It was, and that one I'm home less, right? But it's the summertime. My wife and my kids come and visit me on the road. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, summertime, yeah.
Yeah, so they drive. I think the most they've ever driven was like 8 hours to come and see me for the weekend or for a few days. And my wife, she cooks a bunch of food and sends me away with at least 2 weeks worth of food, so I don't have to spend money on takeout or on buying groceries. And she cooks them. All I got to do is heat it up. And when I start running out, she runs me more. So yeah, it's pretty good that
Awesome.
way. Yeah, man, we've been together 20 years this year. We've been married for 12. Our 12-year anniversary just passed 3 weeks ago. I think it was.
20 years.
20 years, been together since high school. It's pretty
Damn, dude. That's crazy.
It's been a good time, that's for sure. Yeah.
So, I seen on your TikTok a couple different videos. One of them you already answered the question. I seen that video where you down in that tub sucking stuff out. You were squeegeeing the floor, and I was wondering what the hell you were doing.
Yeah, that was an old post. I needed something to post that day. I'm at home, right? So it's hard to post work content from home. So I'm like, I'll take an older video and I'll slap it up there. And it actually worked out for me on Instagram last year. I threw it during the cold snap. I just threw an old video up and it got like 600,000 views the first time. The second time it got 12 million, 12.6 million. So I was like, oh shit.
Damn.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, it was all about timing, right? It was really, really cold. The video was about being really cold, and it was funny. So it just took off
That's
at the
all.
right time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I did see you had another post about using the porta potty when it's cold out, and I have done that, and I right when I watched that video, I was like, "Oh, I know that pain. I know that pain, bro." I was I was dying because it was like, "Oh, do I wanna what was it? Do I wanna shit on company time?" And I was like, "Man, I've had that thought before." Gonna sit in
Yeah.
there, it's like, "Do I really wanna do this right now?
Yeah. Is this
I
worth
don't
it?
know."
Is this worth it? Yeah. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I had to go really badly, and I couldn't make the porta potty. I could see the porta potty, but I couldn't make it. I'm like, I'm not gonna make that. So I went into the back of the steamer, and there was an empty bucket back there, and I went in the bucket. Right.
Yeah, I've done that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
numerous times.
Oh yeah, it was a good time, and I had to rinse the bucket out and whatnot. But it was a perfect time to actually advertise for growl towels, because they had sent me growl towels and sent me a pack of wipes, right? And they're like, "Well, use these, like clean your hands, clean the truck, whatever." And they were just sitting right there. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is perfect. The content makes itself." Right.
Yeah.
And so I had the growl towels. I'm like, you know what? Like, shout out to growl towels though. The bucket's a crime scene, but shout out to growl towels. Like they're durable. The finger doesn't poke through. They get the job done. They clean the heavy messes, right? And they love that. They thought that was hilarious. So
That's awesome. I like that one.
and then yeah, the shitting in the porta potty, man. I actually got the porta potty content idea. I don't know if you've ever reached out to him or have him on, but his name is Josh. Um, what's his name on TikTok there? Um, he's a pipeliner in California,
Oh,
and
really?
He's big. He's a big guy, right? And yeah, he's got the handlebar mustache. And Johnny Tsunami. Reach out to Johnny Tsunami. You need Johnny Tsunami on your podcast. Guy's hilarious.
Yeah, head
And
tattoos?
what's that?
Any head tattoos?
Yeah, yeah, he's got head tattoos. Yeah.
I might I might think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Johnny Tsunami's hilarious, and he calls himself the porta potty prince, right? And he makes a lot of content in the porta potty. And it wasn't until I saw his stuff, I'd made a little bit, but I was like, all right, he's got some good ideas. And so I started making a little bit more in the porta potty too. And I actually had him on my podcast, and like he's hilarious, really funny guy, real down to earth. A lot of people take him the wrong way because of his character, right? So it's he's very much not that person, but like he's solid guy though,
Yeah.
fun to talk to.
So, then I seen a couple other ones, I wrote them down because I was dying. One is the camp food,
Yeah.
which working out in the pit, there was a couple times where we cooked our own food because, we were out there for 20-hour day or something, we had a little mini grill. But when you put camp food, I was like, "Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, I know how that is because you gotta be careful what you eat because you don't know if it's gonna run right through you at that time."
Oh yeah. Well, the camp food in camp, right? They gotta mass produce it for like, they gotta make food for 3,000 people, or depending how many people are in that camp. I've been in camps where there's 9,000 people in the camp, or 3,000 people. Been in camps where there's only 40. Been in camp where there's 10, right? So
Crazy.
depending, but all the camp food is always deep fried. It's always full of MSGs, and they're, you never know what's in it, right? And how it's made. It could get undercooked that day. You never know, right? So, there have been, food poisonings happening in camp, right? And
Timberwolves.
so because of how it's cooked, and if you don't eat that way outside of camp, when you go back to camp, as soon as you eat, it's like a mad dash for the bathroom. Right. And like, oh dude, it's crazy. I put at work, I probably shit like 3 or 4 times a day. Yeah. Like once after breakfast for sure, probably
Yeah.
once in the afternoon or so. And then when I get back from work, I'm going right to the bathroom. And then, later, sometimes right after dinner or just before bed because of dinner. Right. So it's keeps you pretty regular.
Another thing you said, you had a video that you said when they ask you to fill out an incident report and then you remember that you can't spell, that got me because I was like, "Oh my." There's been multiple times boss like, "Hey, you wanna just go ahead and fill this out and write down what you did today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'm terrible at spelling. I don't know if you're gonna be able to read what I write down because it ain't gonna be English.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
well,
horrible."
it's funny. It's like I said, I like to make fun of blue collar folk and myself. A lot of self deprecating humor, and just joking around about the how people judge blue collar workers. Right,
Yeah.
the stigmas behind blue collar workers. We're looked at as unintelligent, not smart. We can't read. We didn't do well in school. We're not smart at all, right? And that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah,
Some of the smartest
exactly.
people I've ever met have come, in a blue
Yeah.
collar field. It's right on a rig, right in the shittiest job you can think of. I've met some of the smartest people, and it's because of the money, right? I met a woman who was going to school to be a brain surgeon. She was going to school to be a brain surgeon, and
Oh,
she was
wow.
there to pay for her schooling, right? But over time, she's like, the amount of schooling I'm going to have to put in for this versus the amount of pay I'm going to make and the end of it, in the long run, it might be better. But like, I'm going to be years ahead of that right now if I stay here.
Yeah.
She's not following the brain surgeon route anymore. You know what I mean? Like, she's a brain surgeon, right?
Yeah, it's
Who
wild, dude.
literally opens people's heads up, or wants to open people's heads up and study their brain and do operations on the brain, the most important and vital part of
Yeah.
your body, right? And she just threw it away because blue collar, right? Blue collar came knocking and the money was there, right? And it was, whoa, that's awesome, good for her, right? And I met a lot of people like that. I worked with a woman who was going to school to be a teacher, and she worked with us in the summertime to put herself through teachers college, right? Now she did, their story is not like, oh fuck the teaching shit I'm going to say here, but it almost went like that. She's like, I don't know if I want to do teaching anymore. I might want to stay here. And then the last summer, she's like, I got a teaching position. I got accepted into this program. She finished it, and she's like, oh, I got accepted at this school. right? And so she left us. She's gone now. And I talked to her. She doesn't live too far from me. She just had a baby, so she's not teaching now. But like that was also a part of the checklist for her. But she put herself through school, but using blue collar, right? And
Yep.
I love that. That's what my podcast is about too. Like if you're blue collar curious, if you're blue collar and you want to make a switch up, right? Or like you want to know, because I talk to people from all different industries like you, right? And we talk about what it takes to get into that industry, how much they can make, how what the ceiling is, what the floor is, right? And so anyone listening, it's like, hey, I want to do this, or the money seems right, the ceilings are right, everything matches up. My podcast very much is there for that, and to have a good time too. But yeah, man. So back to your original thing, blue collar people like are looked at as we can't read, right?
Yeah.
So like I put that video out there like like I can't read well. I don't know how to write these words down for the incident, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% me because I cannot read and write very well. But you want me to take apart this machine and put it back together, I can do it
Yeah, man. We're
without
all
hesitation either. It's just like, yeah, I know exactly where this gonna go. This I go. We have to do this first. We got to do that first.
yeah.
Yeah, blue collar. It's not that we're not intelligent. We're just not book smart.
And that's just it. Some of us are, right? Some of
Yeah,
us a lot.
I've worked with guys that are book smart, and I'm like, man, I feel real stupid now around you because you can tear it down and you can do the book smart.
Yeah, man. And this is also why I have the podcast. I like having conversations with people, right? You never know about anybody until you sit down and be like, how are you? Right.
Yeah.
And then Gord, a good friend of mine, he has a podcast too. You might actually do good on his podcast. His called the Second Act Podcast, right? Where like they're in the second act of their life. They're not doing what they started out doing, but they've taken another avenue. Really good podcast.
Wait, you got
He
to repeat that because you froze for a second.
oh,
Repeat what you just said.
am I back?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, the
We
Gord, my
missed
buddy
that part.
Gord, he has his a podcast called the Second Act Podcast, and it's about people who are on the second act of their life.
What's his name?
Gord Kitely, and he has the Second Act Podcast, and it's about a podcast about people who are on the second act of their life, like you, right? Like you didn't start out wanting to do this or knowing about this, but you're here now, right? And it's
Absolutely.
working out well for you, right? So like that's his podcast is all about that, and he told me, the 6 degrees of separation and all that. We have this conversation all the time, but the difference between a conversation ending and keeping going is like when you say, "Hey man, how are you?" and someone says, "Good," and they keep walking, or "Good and you," and then "and you" is everything, right? And as soon as you say "and you," people love nothing more than to talk about themselves, right? So like "and you," and boom, off to the races. I work with a guy, blue collar, and I had no idea about anything that he did. I just knew he was a vac truck driver, right? I'm like, oh, stupid vac truck driver, right? Whatever, right? You talk to him, this guy's an actor, right? He's been in a couple TV shows, a couple movies and stuff like that. And yeah, this is what he does on the side, right? He's just like, hey, between acting gigs, I want them to keep calling me back. I do this so I can live until they call me back.
How awesome is that? Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, man, dude,
Super cool.
blue collar, man. We're a interesting bunch, like there's so many people, and especially in the oil field. I never got this when I was starting off 13 years ago in the oil field. I never understood why guys had side jobs, and I'm like, you guys make good money. What are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Keeping their hands in other pies. I never understood till that first downturn hit, that first bust, right? And now I'm doing it too, right? I got the podcast, making money on the podcast, making money on my content. I'm keeping my hands in other pies, right? So yeah.
Yeah, you got to.
You got it. You got to. You got to hustle. Life is only getting more expensive. It's crazy. Up here in Canada, we're approaching 50% tax, if not more. My paycheck the other day was, you look at the gross versus the net, and it's depressing.
Yeah,
And when were you guys there for that other 50 hours of my life?
exactly.
It's
You look at your
wild.
paycheck and you're like, wow, I'm missing a couple $1,000s out of here.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, is this even worth it anymore? And I think that's what they're trying to do, right? They're, especially oil and gas, right? Because it's looked at as, bad. Don't
Yeah.
bad boy down. right?
Oil,
And
gas, coal, it's all terrible for the environment. But I don't think people understand that your electric cars, they're charged off of electricity. Where's
wind
their electricity made from?
wind turbines, they won't pay for themselves in a quarter of a century. It'll take to pay themselves back. Whereas oil and gas, so where I'm working right now, right? I was on this site 10 years ago when we were building this site, right? And now it's fully operational and it's working and I'm back and I'm like, wow, man, this is cool. I was in my mid 20s when I was here, right? And or my early 20s and I was like, wow, and now I'm back 10 years later and I'm like, man, I did that over there. I did that over there, right? And it's so cool to see, but like they're mining, right? They're mining for oil, and there could be up to $10,000 in the back of a haul truck worth of oil, right?
Yeah.
And get this, when they're mining, I actually had this guy on my podcast. He was a geologist. I didn't think it would be interesting at all, but like turns out it was very interesting. When they're mining, they're only scratching the surface of mining, right? They're in the last 100 years, right? They've only gone down a couple kilometers. They don't go all the way down. They don't get anywhere near. They're only touching the tip of the iceberg for what they can. If they kept going, they could get way, way more, right? And
Gotta preserve it though.
over the last year, right? They've got like 40 more years at this site of digging before they're done, right?
Yeah.
In the last couple months, they just found like a lot more off to the one side. They're like, there is like another like 40 years here, right? And they haven't even crossed the highway yet, right? And they haven't even gone this way yet. And oh man, it's not going anywhere, right? It's
Yeah.
it's just not. It's long after they find the alternative for oil and gas, my kids will be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's wild.
that and like I don't want to leave oil and gas and coal and all that because yeah, the electric cars and electric this that's all cool, but I don't know if anybody that's all about it if they've seen a lithium mine.
I have, yeah.
It takes almost I think the facts that I read it was like it's like 500 tons of lithium to make one battery for an electric car. And then the thing is with coal mines, which once again people probably don't understand, is that like coal mines, if you that mine, once they're done mining the coal and they get what they want out of it, they have to put it all back. They have to refill that whole mine,
It's called
plant
reclamation.
trees, and then they can leave. They
Yeah,
have to restore it the way it was.
yep,
A lithium mine, once you start digging into that, you can't do nothing. It's ruined. It has ruined the ground.
yep. Look
So
at,
it is not
look
good for the
at
environment.
Look at Fort Mac, Alberta, where I'm working right now. Google, anyone listening, Google Gateway Hill, right? Gateway Hill was an open pit mine back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And now you couldn't even tell. They made it better than what it was, right?
Yeah.
Oil and gas industry plants more trees than Greenpeace ever will. They replant every single tree they take out and then some, right?
Yeah.
And the Google Gateway Hill, Syncrude's East Mine as well. They're starting to reclaim that. There's trees, they're only yay high right now, but they've started to reclaim that. Man, they don't leave that to just sit and
No,
rot and die when
exactly.
they're done, right? It's called reclamation. The logging industry is famous for it. They
Yep.
every log they take out, they replant 10, right? It's simple, right? We're actually carbon neutral in Canada. It's carbon neutral because of the amount of trees that get replanted versus taken out. You guys don't pay a carbon tax in the U.S., but we pay a carbon tax here, and it's set to double or triple, something like that, in April. And yeah, it's not good. It's increased the price of everything up here, and we've been paying it for almost 10 years now or something like that, and it doubles every couple of years, or twice last year it went up twice. And we're carbon neutral, so carbon is the most abundant element in the universe, right? And we're paying a tax on it. It's wild.
Money.
It's all about that money, man.
It's all about
It's
the green.
Oh, it's wild. When you follow the money, you understand everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, come on.
Like the Keystone XL pipeline. that Canada wanted to build between the US and Canada, and how it got squashed, right? Right now we're shipping oil by rail, right? A lot of the oil by rail. And when it's at geez, $10 a barrel, it's really, really, really cheap is bad. But right now it costs right now Berkshire Hathaway runs the tracks, which is owned by Warren Buffett. The shipping oil by train right now is putting $2 billion a year in his pocket. Right? You put in a pipeline, you ship that oil down the
Yeah, you
pipe,
lose money.
$2 billion away from Warren Buffett. 2 billion is a lot of money. You follow the money trail and you see why the pipeline's not getting approved. It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with the environment. They don't care about the environment, right? They're screaming in the name of the environment, but it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with that. You
No.
follow that money trail, and you'll find out
Yeah.
why. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
Greed, man.
it's all
Greed.
interesting, man. It's all interesting, and I can't believe everybody knows. It's
Yeah.
open information, and everyone knows this, but it's just like they think we're dumb, right?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Is what is.
I love
You
it.
wanna go you wanna shout out your podcast name and your social media and stuff? That way
Yeah,
people can find you?
yeah, sure, man. So, on the Throne podcast, you can find it on Apple, Spotify. I would say Google, but Google podcasts are gone now. So Amazon, Good Pods, you can find it there. Yeah, I'm 101. Episode 101 came out yesterday, so I'm 101 episodes deep
Congratulations.
now. Thanks, man. I'm excited. It's a lot of work, as you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's my baby. And then Dick Frost on so to find me on TikTok, it's FrostyD 2.0 is the account I mainly use now, but Dick Frost is the original account which got throttled back. And then on Twitter or X it's Dick Frost. On YouTube it's Dick Frost. On Threads it's Dick Frost. Man, I'm just having a good time, just
You're on that Threads?
oh yeah, I'm on Threads. It's fun.
You like that?
It's not bad, whatever. I just push the podcast out there and I write.
I haven't got on it yet. I keep seeing because I know that who's it? Is it affiliated with Instagram
The Threads,
or
yeah. If you
Facebook?
so here's the thing. It's affiliated with Instagram. You sign up for Threads using your Instagram and it automatically creates it. But if you don't like
Okay.
Threads and you delete it, it'll delete your Instagram too, right? So like they kind of suck
Oh.
in that way. Yeah, don't delete it.
Oh.
Yeah,
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 I
I know.
haven't looked it up. I haven't gone on it and checked it out yet. I keep seeing the thing like there are little ads and you're like, "Oh, what's that?" And you click it and it's like, "Download Threads." And I'm like,
I've
"No,
been
I
building
wasn't looking
that
at that."
I've been building that Instagram account for 3 years. It's got 55,000 followers on there now. And if I delete Threads and it deletes my Instagram, I'll be mad. Like
Yeah,
I'll be like, oh man.
100%, dude. Instagram, I think, is super hard to get followers on.
But that's why the followers you get on Instagram are worth double that of anywhere else
Yeah.
because of how hard it is to grow on there. And if you have an Instagram account, that's where all your like brand deals and like affiliations and anyone that wants to sponsor you will come from, right?
I love Instagram because, don't get me wrong, I like TikTok, and, I got a great following on TikTok. It's like 170,000 followers right now,
Yeah.
which is awesome, and I love all my followers. And it's great to see how many people around the world, like, look at my stuff. I find that just it blows my mind, it really does. Like, people around the world wanna see me? Why? It's cool to me, it's so awesome.
It is, man.
But Instagram, dude, I think I got, I don't know, probably close to 17,000 followers on Instagram. But I learned on Instagram, if you fuck around and you comment some stupid shit, I mean, now, me with all the scars, you're not gonna hurt my feelings, but whatever you say, I've heard it all. I've joked on myself, Deadpool, all that, man. I love it all. I love the jokes. I do. Blue collar, that's what we're about. We're about the gags, the laughs. So TikTok, you'll get those comments, but it's a lot of love and a support, and I love it. But Instagram, you'll get the people that will throw those slick comments, and I'll throw it right back and have fun with it, and everybody laughs. You'll get a couple, which I've only had like a handful, that really meant to be an asshole. Like,
Oh yeah.
they're looking to really push your buttons. And on Instagram is the wrong place if you're gonna comment some bullshit because
Oh yeah.
Dude, the people that follow you or are in your comments,
Your
they
ride.
light them up.
Yep. Are
They're
you on Facebook?
ruthless.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, but I don't have a huge following on something's wrong with my Facebook.
So I think I just hit 37K on Facebook,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm monetized
like
on it.
1,000.
Pretty cool, right? So one of my videos the other day made me $300 in like a couple hours
On
because
Facebook?
yeah,
I'm trying to
because
figure out what's
fucking
wrong with mine.
someone commented some dumb shit on there. And the comment section came for them, right? And it
Yeah,
started more in the comment section, right? You get paid based off of engagement. So all it's just seeing engagement and just pushing the video out more. It's got like just over 2 million views on it now on Facebook, and it's just like all these people arguing, right? And it's funny, man. But yeah, like you get some ride or dies for you. But man, when we
yeah.
my podcast, I'm calling that shit the blue collar Deadpool episode. Like
The uh, do what you want, man. You call it whatever.
that's hilarious. That's hilarious, man.
Have you seen the new Fallout show?
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. It's like a
Okay,
year old
so
now or something like that?
the ghoul
Oh, yeah,
from
the ghoul, yeah.
Fallout,
Yeah.
that's my next Halloween costume because my service dog is a Belgian Malinois, and
Ah,
by next year, she'll be almost a year old, and she'll be pretty close to full grown, so she'll be that size. So
I
I'm gonna
love
do that as Halloween. I'll be the ghoul, and she'll be the dog and from Fallout.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I
I was
love
like,
that.
"It's
That's
so
badass.
dope."
Um,
But,
I
what's
got hurt at work once, but not, like, quite like you.
what happened? Tell me.
So we got a bundle of pipe come in, right? And I wasn't wearing safeties. I was, 22? 20, 22, 23. So I invincible, right? You know,
Yeah.
so I was standing over the bundle of pipe and I went to cut the banding off. And when I cut the banding off, it snapped back and hit me in the eye. Right. Luckily, it was the fat piece and not the sharp piece.
Yeah.
Right. And it detached my retina. And I had to have surgery on that. But there was like a month between getting hit and needing the surgery. So I was at work and I told them I needed to have the surgery. And I said to my coworker, I'm like, if I'm going to get fired, it's going to be in the next couple of weeks here because I wasn't there 3 months yet, right? And
Oh, you're still on
so
probation.
yeah, it was a week later, and they're like, "Hey, Rich, can you come up to the office, please?" And I said to my coworker, "I'm like, today's the day I'm getting fired, right?" I get up there, corporate lawyer in there, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" Right? So they gave me a year severance. I wasn't even there 3 months yet.
Oh, damn.
I could have got more, but I was 22, 23. I didn't know better, right? They threw a number at me. I'm like, yup. And I walked away. Right. And I bought my wife's engagement ring with that. We went on a little trip before my surgery. Oh, yeah, it was good.
They let you go or they kept you?
They let
They
me
let
go.
you go?
They let
Yeah.
me go. Yeah. Yeah, and which was
Crazy.
good because I had like the next 6 months off after my surgery. It probably didn't need that much, but like, yeah, I have a buckle in my eye here, and that's why a lot of people are like, "Oh, your eye's lazy," right? And I'm like, it's not lazy. There's a buckle there, and it holds the eyelid down a little bit, right? And yeah, it's I had it looked at. This was 12 years ago or so, 13 years ago. I had the surgery, and
That's
um,
crazy.
I had it looked at like couple months ago now, and it's still good. Still looks great, So
You have
yeah.
no problem with your vision out of it?
I do, but like, yeah. So get this. It's not the greatest. I wear glasses, and I don't think it's the greatest vision. But when I was at the eye doctor there 2 months ago, he's like, "You want to know something wild?" I'm like, "What's that?" He's like, "As bad as that eye is, he's like, you're technically legal to drive without glasses." And like I could barely see shit on the screen and whatnot. Like I don't know if you can see how thick that lens is
Oh,
compared to that one, right?
yeah.
Right? So like he's like, "You're legally allowed to drive without glasses." He's like, "Isn't that crazy?" It's like, man, I could kill somebody, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like I put trucks in the ditch all the time, and I know that's why, right? Like, right? Like, he's like, "Yeah, man, it's bad." He's like, I don't know when they're gonna change that up and switch up that legislation or whatever, but like for now, you don't need them to drive.
That's
I
crazy.
wear them to drive, but I don't need to.
Yeah, the electricity affected my eyes, so my vision is 20/20. My vision's, like, perfect. I can
Did it make
see.
it better?
No, so I've always had really good vision,
Okay.
but coming out of the hospital, I didn't really notice it until I would say probably about a year. first year I was out of the hospital. I walked outside to meet my buddy outside one day, and it was a super bright day. Well, his truck was white, and then my wife's car was white, and we got in between them, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't see anything." My buddy's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, I can't even see, like, it's too bright." And he was like, "It's not that bad." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if it's because we're in between the 2 white cars." That's when I first noticed it. Well, the electricity damaged the part of my brain that tells my eyes about the levels of light sensitivity. So now the sunlight is, like, terrible.
You wear
Like, if it's
glasses.
really bright out, I'm like, "Oh my god." So I
Yeah.
always have to wear shades.
Yeah. Do you have a sponsor for shades yet or what?
I've been trying to hit up Oakley.
Oakley. Oh man, I got heat waves. You got to get heat waves. Oakleys are done.
Yeah, but
Oakleys are
Oakley fits my head really good because I don't have that ear.
that's fair. That's fair. Man, you're like you're like blue collar Deadpool, but also blue collar Raiden, dude. Like,
Who's
like
Raiden?
you Mortal Kombat?
Oh, I don't know all the Mortal Kombat
There's
guys.
electricity out of his fingers and like his eyes turn like pure white and like when he's summoning his
Oh, I knew who you're talking about, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's a new one I'm gonna use.
You're like Raiden, man. Like you gotta have like the Asian like flora hat. I don't know what it's called, but
Yeah,
that
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
have that on. You should dress up as a Raiden for Halloween.
I'm gonna look up what the whole thing was. We'll do a video on it. I did a
Oh,
video on the Deadpool video. I don't know if you've seen that one, but I dressed up as Deadpool.
I didn't see that one yet. So I started listening to your podcast.
Costume is a little bit tight.
Yeah, I started listening to your podcast a few weeks ago, actually, and the first couple with just Tiffany on it. You weren't on there yet,
Yeah,
right? So I'm catching up because I got like a lineup of podcasts I like to listen to that are in my rotation, right? So like this week I'll probably listen to. I got a fucking fly back to work on Monday, so it's a 40-minute flight. So I'll throw on one of yours, and then while I'm at work, I'll throw on a couple of yours, and then I'll start to rotate back through, right? Like man, like it's crazy, and then I got to listen back to mine a couple times, for like editing and
yeah,
um seeing. I listen back a couple times, just editing, but also to enjoy it rather than looking at it through the lens of like work. I look
yeah,
at it through the lens of enjoyment, right? It's like, all right, I'm going to enjoy this one. All right, and then I'll listen to it, to pick out teaser trailers, right, and stuff like that. And yeah, no, it's there's a lot of work in it, so yeah,
yeah.
it's worth it though.
Well
It's fun.
well, man, it was amazing having you on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me
This
here, man.
was awesome.
I'm always down to come on someone else's podcast, but like it's not always someone else's blue collar either, right? So it's good. It's good to come on to someone else's podcast that's in the same niche and space that I'm in, and we can talk shop a little bit, and
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying, and I understand what you're saying, and yeah, man, it's a lot of fun.
Which everybody that's watching, after you watch this episode, get ready because you guys are gonna have to tune into his podcast because I am gonna go on to his podcast.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. I like to stay. I don't know how you do it. Do you like to stay like a couple weeks ahead of where you're at?
Oh,
You have some in the bank?
yeah, so, like, it sucks because every time I do an episode, you wanna put that episode out
Yeah.
because every episode is good. I don't care, every time you get off with a guest, you're like, "That was awesome. I loved it." And you
Yeah.
wanna put it out, and you wanna tell them, like, "Hey, your episode's coming out tomorrow," but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's, like, weeks that we have so many people scheduled already that it's like, "Alright, yours will be out next month." No, it sucks to tell somebody that because they're excited to have it come out, but, yeah, we have them all lined up, and that's the way Tiffany schedules them all.
Yeah. I try to stay like 4-ish weeks ahead,
Yeah, you
right?
always wanna be ahead.
But there are
You're gonna be
times
scrambling
where,
trying to get people to come on.
like right now, I only have next week's recorded, and then I don't have anything after that. But I'm lining it up. There's lots of people there that I can summon or call upon or whatever to be like, hey man, podcast tonight, let's go. Right? And they're always like, yeah man, let's go. So I got next week's recorded, and then after that, nothing. But there's times where I've been 6 weeks ahead, right? Where I record every night for like a week, and then you just get exhausted. You're like, I gotta stop talking to people for a bit, right? And then yeah, and then but Yeah, man, 101 weeks, man, 102 next week. We haven't missed a single week, so that's
Awesome.
oh man, it's been a blast, and I can't wait to have you on, man. It's gonna be a
Oh,
good
I'm
one.
ready.
I can already tell, like the my style versus your style, like it's different, but it's the same sort of.
Yeah.
But man, I ask a certain question at the end, and the way that I integrate my sponsors, like I never know how I'm going to reel that off the top of my head. I just like follow what feels right in the moment and then just go with it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So like and usually the one is around the 45-minute mark. And if I haven't cracked you open by then, after we talk about the one, you're cracked open, right? Like there's no holding back after that.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. I've been on a podcast. You'll be
You've
the
never,
first.
you've never been on one?
Mm-mm.
You have your own, but you
Never
man, I
been on
can't
one.
pop your cherry.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
popping
excited.
your cherry, but this is gonna be so
Gotta
much
be
blood.
easy with me. Gotta be easy.
So much blood.
Be soft.
You're bleeding everywhere. It's
It'll
happening.
be fun. I'm excited because I haven't been on one. I did an end of a documentary that was all about burn survivors. It was called Courage Rising, and I was actually on the end of that. I wasn't in the documentary. The documentary was wild. All these burn survivors, they went to Mount Kilimanjaro. I hope I said that right. The
Kilimanjaro, yeah.
the biggest one in Africa, and they
Yeah.
hiked it to the top. And people that have watched it, you'll never understand if you've never had scars like this. But it's hard because the scars, they limit your movement, but also with different weather, like if it's super hot out, I don't sweat out of my head anymore.
Video
So
with
I
the
overheat.
yeah. I saw that video with the moisturizing cream.
Oh yeah, it doesn't do nothing. People are
Yeah.
like, "Just put lotion on it and do this," and lotion will literally I could leave it there for a week and it wouldn't seep in. You can wipe it right off. The only
Wow.
way you can fix scars like this is laser, and I've done 7 sessions of laser, and man, it's
Mini me, quit humming the
yeah,
laser.
it's so painful, bro. It's
Hey,
bad.
I saw a sign the other day that said burn victims, so I did.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. Oh man. No, that's I saw that video where she was like, yeah, he doesn't sweat, and you put
Yeah,
the cream on there, and it wasn't going nowhere. I was like, whoa, man, that's crazy, like
that's they're thick scars, but
I
I can
want
move around now. When I got out of the hospital, I couldn't move. Huh?
I want to touch them.
You know what? Dude, if you're here, I'd let you touch them. They're just. I mean, it's hard to see because I have my hoodie on.
That looks like you rhino skin.
Yeah, what did somebody say one day? Chainmail. Like, it looks like chainmail from like the Knights, and I was like, "Oh shit, it really does." Like I didn't think of that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a rubbery, hard leather feeling. It's very strange.
You become a cool serial killer, and then
Wicked.
oh man, that would be
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They ain't got nothing on me, bro. I don't need a mask.
you don't even need a mask. Ah.
Mm-mm. I scare you just like this.
I think it looks good, man. Yeah.
All right, Nick. It was awesome having you on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for
Um,
having me on, man, and give my best to
I
Tiffany.
loved
I
it.
don't know if she's around, but tell her I say hi, and
I
yeah,
will.
and the family.
I'm excited to come on your podcast. So I'll see you then. And
Yeah, man.
for everybody else that's watching, make sure you guys tune in, check it out. If you guys like this video, make sure you like it, you subscribe to the channel, and yeah, tune in for the next episode, guys.
Can't
Dick,
wait.
I'll keep in touch with you, man. We'll be talking shortly.
Absolutely, buddy.
All right, dude.
Hey, thanks for
Have a
having
good
me.
one.